What if I told you that the potato sitting in your kitchen right now might be sending you a warning, and most people completely misunderstand it? You've probably seen it before. A potato starts growing little white shoots, maybe even turning slightly green, and the first instinct is to throw it away. But is that always the right move? Are sprouted potatoes actually dangerous, or are we wasting perfectly good food? Here's the surprising truth. Most people don't really know what those sprouts mean, and the answer is not as simple as safe or toxic. In some cases, you can still use the potato. In others, you absolutely should not. The key is knowing how to tell the difference. Welcome to Consumer's Choice Top 5, where we break down everyday foods, uncover hidden truths, and help you make smarter choices. Today, we're clearing up one of the most common kitchen questions. Are sprouted potatoes safe to eat, or are they something you should avoid? Before we go further, take a second to hit like if you enjoy practical food tips that can save you money and protect your health. Subscribe for more simple, useful videos like this, and drop a comment saying I throw them away if you've ever tossed out a potato just because it had sprouts. Let's get into it. Let's start with what's actually happening when a potato sprouts. A potato is not just food, it's a living plant structure. When conditions are right, especially warmth, moisture, and light, it starts trying to grow into a new plant. Those little shoots you see are the beginning of that process. The potato is using its stored energy to grow. At first, this might not sound like a problem, but as the potato starts to sprout, something else begins to happen inside it. The chemical balance changes. One of the most important things to understand is the presence of a natural compound called solanine. Solanine is found in potatoes and other plants in the same family. In small amounts, it is usually harmless. But when potatoes are exposed to light or begin to sprout, the levels of solanine can increase. This is also when you may notice the potato turning green. That green color is not just a visual change, it's a signal that something has shifted inside the potato. So now the big question becomes, does that mean all sprouted potatoes are dangerous? The answer is no, not always. This is where most people get it wrong. If a potato has just started sprouting and still looks firm, with only a few small shoots, you can usually remove the sprouts and any slightly green areas and still use the potato. The key is that the potato itself should still be solid, not shriveled, not soft, and not heavily green. For example, imagine you find a potato in your pantry with a couple of small white sprouts and no strong green color. If you peel it deeply, cut out the sprouts, and remove any questionable areas, it is generally considered safe to cook and eat. Cooking does not completely remove solanine, but reducing the affected parts lowers the risk significantly. Now let's look at the opposite situation. If the potato is heavily sprouted, wrinkled, soft, or has large green patches, that is a different story. At that point, the chemical changes are more advanced, and the potato has lost much of its original quality. In that case, it is safer to throw it away. This is where the confusion comes in. Many people see any sprout at all and immediately assume the potato is dangerous. Others ignore the signs completely and use potatoes that should have been discarded. The truth is in the middle, and understanding that difference can save you money and reduce waste while still keeping you safe. Let's make this even clearer with a simple comparison. Think of a slightly sprouted potato-like fruit that is just starting to go overripe. You can still use it if you handle it properly, but a heavily sprouted green and soft potato is more like fruit that has already spoiled. At that point, it's no longer worth the risk. Here's a quick question for you. When you see a sprouted potato, do you usually throw it away right away, or do you try to use it? Type throw or use in the comments. It's interesting to see how people handle this differently. Now let's talk about why green potatoes are often mentioned along with sprouts. The green color in potatoes comes from chlorophyll, which itself is not harmful, but it often appears at the same time as increased solanine levels. So when you see green, it's not the color itself that's the problem. It's what the color is telling you about what's happening inside the potato. This is why food safety advice often says to avoid green potatoes or cut away green areas. It's a visual clue that helps you identify when the potato may have higher levels of compounds you don't want to consume in large amounts. Another important point is how you store your potatoes. Storage plays a big role in whether they sprout or turn green. Potatoes should be kept in a cool, dark, and dry place. When they are exposed to light or warmth, they are more likely to sprout and develop those changes we've been talking about. For example, if you leave potatoes on a bright kitchen counter, they are much more likely to turn green and sprout quickly. But if you store them in a dark pantry or a cool cabinet, they can last much longer without those changes happening. Also, avoid storing potatoes in the refrigerator. The cold temperature can change the starch in the potato into sugar, which affects taste and texture. Instead, aim for a stable, cool environment. Now let's address a common concern. What happens if someone eats a potato that has high levels of solanine? In large amounts, solanine can cause symptoms like nausea, stomach discomfort, or headaches. However, this usually requires eating a significant amount of heavily affected potato. Most cases of normal consumption, especially when the bad parts are removed, do not reach that level. That said, it's always better to be cautious. If a potato looks questionable, smells off, or has strong green discoloration, it's not worth taking the chance. Food safety is about reducing risk, not testing limits. Let's do a quick recap to make everything simple and clear. If a potato has small sprouts but is still firm and mostly normal in color, you can remove the sprouts, peel it well, and use it. If the potato is soft, shriveled, heavily sprouted, or very green, you should throw it away. The key factors are firmness, color, and the extent of sprouting. This simple rule can help you make better decisions without wasting food unnecessarily. Many people throw away potatoes too early because they don't understand this difference. At the same time, some people keep potatoes too long and ignore clear warning signs. So the real takeaway is not just whether sprouted potatoes are safe, it's knowing how to read the signs correctly. Now let's talk about why this matters beyond just potatoes. This is a great example of how food safety often depends on understanding context. Many foods change over time. Some changes are harmless, while others are signals that something is no longer safe to eat. When you learn how to recognize those signals, you become more confident in your decisions. You waste less food, save money, and reduce risk at the same time. And that brings us to the final answer. Are sprouted potatoes safe? The answer is yes, sometimes, but not always. It depends on how far the potato has changed. A slightly sprouted potato can often be saved with proper preparation. A heavily sprouted or green potato should be avoided. If this video helped clear things up, go ahead and hit like, subscribe to Consumer's Choice Top 5 for more simple and useful food insights, and share this with someone who always throws out their potatoes the moment they see a sprout. Before you go, here's one last question. Now that you know the difference, will you still throw away every sprouted potato, or will you check it more carefully first? Drop your answer in the comments below. Next time you see a sprouted potato, don't just react. Take a closer look, think about what you've learned, and make a smarter choice. Because now, you know how to read the sign correctly. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, and share. Also, please check out our previous videos.